Good morning, everybody. My name is Gabriele Rosato. I am a cultural anthropologist at the Institute of Anthropology, which is part of the Pontifical Gregorian University. So basically, I'm pretty local, and it's a truly honor to participate at the conference for the first time, and especially because it's the occasion to present the early results of my current fieldwork, which, as you can see, is based on the perception and representation of spaces for survivors of childhood abuse and in the intersection of disability. And at the same time, I'm also researching how survivors with disabilities reclaim their spaces as a consequence of the intersection of survivorship and impairment. But whatever the stage, I think it's important to explain that my work would be lacking or inaccurate without a full word, which is that I'm not only involved in the research as a scholar, but also as an activist, being a survivor myself and experiencing learning disabilities. So actually, in the words of Donna Kerr, who is emeritus professor at the University of Washington, I will say some things of personal nature and I will feel exposed, vulnerable. These would be utterly silly things to do if my purposes were purely academic. And these statements seem very important to me because it informs researchers that taking a stand through their own investigation can expose them to unknown risks when they are also involved in the topic. But we are in a safe space, so it's important that these go beyond. Now, from a methodological point of view, my research is based on ethnography, visual ethnography, in-depth interviews and on-site observations. It takes more or less 1 year, and it is nearing completion. And my current fieldwork involves a group of 30 individuals, ranging in age from 18 to 55, and half of these people also experience one or more forms of diagnosed disabilities. So while exploring the multifaceted aspects of CSA survivors on their spaces, those participants also emphasized the critical role, I dare say, of disability in shaping their understanding of and interaction with their environments. In a very concise overview, what are the shared features to consider within the convergence of being a survivor and a disabled person? First, survivors often grapple with the psychological scars of trauma, and those with disabilities may face physical limitation and dependence on caregivers. And this combination amplifies the need for safety, security, and environment that provide a sense of control and autonomy. In addition, mental health challenges and issues, such as anxiety, depression, and PTSD, which are prevalent, I dare say, among both groups. And this can be more acute on the occasion of medical examination. Then, social stigma and isolation, they are both significant concerns, and both survivors and disabled individuals frequently encounter societal discrimination, which can lead to profound social isolation. Hence, for example, the experience of a hospital stay can be particularly hostile for them. Another shared feature is environmental adaptations in daily routines. Actually, for survivors, this includes spaces that minimize triggers and offer safety. And as you know, for disabled people, accessibility is key. That's why caregivers can be essential in providing day-to-day daily support, but it is crucial that they respect the autonomy and boundaries of those they care for. Now I can approach the convergence of the two themes. In researching the intersection of survivorship and disabilities, it was essential to consider a broad spectrum of disabilities, each with unique needs and challenges, and each uniquely impact the survivors' experience of trauma and the interaction with their environment. Regarding the people participating in the ethnography, the forms of disability I observed are those you can read on the screen, which are more or less, widely speaking, mobility and sensory impairments, autism spectrum disorders, chronic health conditions, and learning disabilities. So, what is the state of the art? I'm currently analysing how survivors with disabilities reclaim their spaces as a consequence of the intersection of trauma and impairment. And for these, I'm also discussing how these people use verbal and non-verbal communication to navigate their homes. And now I'm reporting some early findings. But, while significant progress has been made, most people with disabilities are still frequently subjected to shaming, and the combined effects of an invisible and visible disability with the consequence of childhood trauma, it can exacerbate that state. However, I dare say that our neutral conversation, our disclosure, was eased by the fact that they and I share the two critical aspects of the research. And in addition, since dealing with one's disability is often a secret and intimate task, I encourage them to keep a record of their experience in the home. And that was relevant because by using the practice of self-narrative, they gained confidence in knowing their self and their rituals, and found the words and sometimes the images you can see later to describe them. So let's take a closer look at some records. Thanks to this approach, I focused on the role of language in the spatial experience of survivors with disability, and this includes how language helps them express, process, and cope with their trauma within their spaces. And what I'm noticing is that language serves as a powerful tool to articulate and manage their spatial experience. That pictures are worth 1,000 words, so please see this picture, for instance, where the participant, the one who drew this sketch, uses compulsively the word divano, which stands for couch in English. And, the fact is that she was reluctant to sit on couches, and when forced by circumstances, she relies on this kind of ritual, so she acts out this kind of ritual. And so each of these swirling lettering is the visual representation of what she feels, and that's why it is compelling. And, this is how a drawing can speak of the complex interplay made of trauma memories, the effects of disabilities, and spatial experiences. Actually, the narratives I record highlight how specific spatial arrangements, sensory elements, and of course privacy aspects can trigger memories of trauma, or conversely contribute to a sense of security and healing. So let's delve into some examples. Participants often describe and define their environment in very unique ways. So here is an analysis of the role of language in spatial experiences, of course, as I observed. For instance, they use specific language to carve out what they consider safe spaces. See, for example, here terms like my sanctuary, my bubble, or safe haven, which are not just words but vivid indicators of the emotional and psychological protection these areas provide. But conversely, the language used to describe the triggering or dangerous spaces is equally telling. So, for example, we'll see words like suffocating, dark, or claustrophobic, which also reveal the negative emotion tied to these areas. At the same time, participants also are showing that language serves as a powerful tool to express their emotional connection to different spaces. So, for example, phrases like, I feel trapped in that room, for example, or this place calmed me down. And this paves the way to that astonishing world of metaphors and symbolic language, which are very prevalent. And then describing a safe room as a fortress or an unsafe one as a prison, they are conveying deep emotional meanings and psychological states. Hence, such symbolic language allows survivors to externalize and manage their emotion through verbal expression. And finally, the picture, the screenshot is my favorite one because at times participants express themselves in a roundabout way, using periphrases that reveal the need for a new vocabulary to describe certain conditions, certain environments. And for instance, some referred that they call their places, their dwellings, as their non-home, a term often used by those who still live in the same dwelling the abuse took place. So these terms express the limit of their language and the need for a word that is the opposite of home as a safe haven. Hence, language is crucial also because it plays a role in mapping out safe and unsafe spaces. So I encourage them to create what we call verbal maps of their environment, detailing which areas are associated with safety or danger, and explaining why. And I noticed that visual narratives help them externalize and process their trauma in a way that complements the verbal expression. For instance, several of the participants with obsessive-compulsive disorders stated that they had reduced the incidence of OCD at homes once they had mapped out the areas of the house where the reliance on this kind of rituals was typically more frequent. For this reason, understanding how spatial arrangements, sensory elements, and privacy aspects impact the experience of survivors with disabilities is basically crucial. So, through interviews and on-site observations, I realized that certain configurations can trigger trauma memories or, conversely, foster a sense of security and healing. For instance, small enclosed spaces such as narrow hallways or cluttered rooms can evoke feelings of entrapment and powerlessness, mirroring the loss of control experienced during the abuse. While those areas that can be easily customized can provide a sense of control and safety. In addition, an overcrowded home can lead to sensory overload and trigger memories of chaos and lack of personal spaces during the abuse. So for survivors with sensory processing issues, these can be
particularly distressing. And that's why creating designated safe spaces within the home can foster a sense of security. And the same applies to sensory elements, hence harsh lighting, sudden or loud noises can trigger traumatic memories and emotional distress, while incorporating kinds of elements like soundproofing, or calming with certain noises, background noises. All of these can help create a peaceful environment. And this can reduce sensory overload and promote a sense of tranquility and, at the end of the day, safety. Moreover, those environments where personal boundaries are not respected, they can increase anxiety and stress. And, well, unfortunately, it is not so unlikely to happen if one of your caregivers was or is the perpetrator of the abuse. But also feeling constantly watched, even in a benign way, can be distressing. So the presence of the caregivers or family members in all aspects of daily life can evoke feelings of being under scrutiny and not having personal autonomy. Then providing survivors with the ability to control who enters their environments can enhance their sense of security. And not surprisingly, almost all participants report that in their childhood homes, closing the doors, either the bedroom or the bathroom, was not dependent on their will. Now, the ongoing ethnography is bringing evidence about the fact that setting may influence the sense of safety, and what emerges is that the bathroom and the bedroom, as I was saying, are such topical spaces for almost all participants. Unfortunately, there is no time to delve into specific cases. However, you can have a look at the amount of the description stemming from ethnography. But within the context of bathroom, their language reflects at the same time the sense of control, sense of fear and avoidance. So survivors may perceive bathroom as a safe space, but at the same time they can feel the sense of exerting control on it. So all these categories reflect how individuals with disabilities and history of child sexual abuse navigate the complexity of medical needs and visibility of their condition within the intimate space of a bathroom. And shifting to the bedroom, most participants emphasize its role as a sanctuary from kind of external stressors, or a place where they can find solace and comfort. Many have adapted their bedroom to accommodate their disability needs, enhancing their sense of safety and empowerment. However, the bedroom also serves as a backdrop for emotional struggles, comforting feelings and isolation. So, finally, items, objects carry significant symbolic meaning. For instance, night lights and blankets are described as providing comfort and security, like sentences as, "My blankets are my safe tent at night." Moreover, avoidance of certain objects like mirrors helps prevent triggering traumatic memories. Well, in conclusion, my research is still ongoing, so presenting the early results of the early achievements is already a privilege. I emphasize that although the information shown doesn't meet a statistical threshold, such insight may sharpen future extensive empirical research based on a broader knowledge of factors and markers and behaviors to be observed. Hence, my assumption is that the environmental and sensory conditions impact the sense of security and safety for people. Therefore, providing individuals with the skills to map their spaces can be part of a conscious and oriented healing journey. This approach not only enhances their physical and emotional well-being, but also fosters a reclaiming of personal spaces and as a source of empowerment and resilience. So, moving forward, these insights advocate for trauma-informed design, and at the end of the day, they can prioritize accessibility and the inherent dignity of having individuals, which is what drives me daily and also the institute to which I belong. So it's the end, but to learn more and stay in touch, you can visit my website and social media, where I try to spread the word about the large theme and subject. And now, and please every day, let's strive to make spaces safer and more supportive for everyone. And now, if you're feeling comfortable, please take part in the whole debate with kindness. Thank you so much for your attention.